The Center for Educational Media and the College of Education at Middle Tennessee State University are proud to offer professional development to K-12 educators in Tennessee through our online video library. The following video is presented by the Center for Educational Media in partnership with Professional Educators of Tennessee's Leader U Conference. For more professional development videos, check out our website at cem.mtsu.edu.
We welcome all of you this morning. Having served as a superintendent, principal, and a teacher, Dr. Lynn Seifert brings a wealth of experience in all levels of schooling. She enjoys planning, writing, and delivering professional development to schools across the nation and writing curriculum for national organizations such as ESPN and Major League Baseball. Having been in the trenches with inner city, rural, and suburban districts, Dr. Seifert understands the struggles that many teachers and administrators face and can provide solid steps for improvement. Currently, Lynn works for No Bully as their school success manager, helping over 140 schools successfully implement ways to improve the school and the classroom climate.
Okay. Now that sounds real impressive. I always tell people, you know, I look pretty good on paper, but the main thing you need to know is that I taught middle school for 17 years, okay? And survived, okay, because you know how that goes. All my administrative experience has been more at the secondary level except for superintendency. And starting in August, I'm transitioning away from I worked for this company called No Bully. If you are looking for a bully prevention program, one of the best that's out there. But I worked with ESPN and Major League Baseball for schools that they sponsored with the program. And that's been fun and cool, but starting in August, I'm transitioning to Austin Peay State University, where I'll be working with pre-service teachers. And I had been working with pre-service teachers virtually for Colorado State University at Pueblo. And the reason Colorado State University, my last 5 years as a high school principal was at an inner city high school in Pueblo, Colorado. We had about 850 students, and we were transitioning ourselves into a STEM school, and there's a whole nother story behind that. But what I'm going to do this morning is that I think one of the best ways to learn is to model the learning. And so we're gonna play pretend. Let's play pretend. I like to play pretend. And so this is the first day of school. You are my new class. And so I'm gonna walk you through what I would do the first day of school. Please play along. Our principal, sadly, is not here, and so I have nowhere to send you if you misbehave. And so I beg of you, please, because hopefully when you see the modeling, there'll be some tips that you feel like that you can pick up on. So, hey, good morning. It's so good to see you. I am very excited to begin the school year with you. But the thing about it is, I really don't know a lot about you. I really would like to know more about you. And so what I want you to do, if you would, I want you to take just a minute. I noticed that so many of you, woohoo, came prepared and you have paper and pencil. I want you to take just a minute, and I'm going to set my timer watch and make sure we don't lallygag. Write down, if you were going to interview somebody for television, we're going to play pretend that you are a reporter on television and your job was to interview somebody. Write down 3 or 4 things you would want to ask that person if you were going to interview them. Okay, can you do that now for me? And you have a minute. 3 or 4 things. Okay, now that you have your 3 or 4 questions written down, I want you to turn to a shoulder partner. Remember, your students aren't going to hate participation as much as sometimes we teachers do. And share the questions that you're going to ask and find the ones that you have in common with your shoulder partner. What are some common questions that you both ask? That you both wrote down that you were going to ask. Let's take a minute for that, and then we're going to see if we can design some interview questions. All right, if I can have your attention back. I do need someone, because I'm not supposed to raise this hand, and when I get it going, I'm afraid I'm going to raise it. So could I get someone to be a scribe for me on that side of the board? Any volunteers? Ah, bless your heart. I thought the sympathy thing, you know, I pass out in the airport, I have a pacemaker. I was hoping that that would work for me today.
Just on the board?
Yes, yes. Okay. Volunteer. Who's got a question that they had in common with their shoulder partner that you would ask someone? Yes, ma'am.
We both said, what do you do to relax?
What do you do to relax?
You want to write the whole question, right?
Yep. All right, what about, yes, sir?
We both agreed, where and when were you born?
Where and when were you born? Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
We both said, what is your vocation? What's your job?
What is your job? Now, how can we relate that to students? What is your favorite activity or hobby? Good, okay. Anybody else?
Well, we didn't have one that agreed, but these were really good that he had. What is your most difficult challenge?
What is your most difficult challenge? Pray they don't say your classroom.
And another one, I'll just add another one if that's all right.
Sure.
Most memorable moment that you've had in your life so far.
Wow, that would be interesting to hear about that. Okay, most memorable moment you've had in your life. Because, you know, you think about what's the most memorable thing in the last 10 years of their life. Okay, all right, good deal. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Good job. Now, here's what I want you to do. I'm going to give you 2 minutes because I want you to grab a partner. I want you to ask your partner those questions, and then we're going to interview each other. We're going to introduce each other by sharing out the answers to those questions, okay? So you're gonna, if this is my partner, okay, see me, I'm touching people. Do you have kids you can't touch? Mm-hmm. And you know who they are. So maybe the first day of school is probably not a good idea, because my luck. Yeah, so I'm gonna say, hey, what do you do to relax? I'm gonna write that down. And then when I'm called on, I'm going to stand up and say, this is
Kim Blevins.
This is Kim. Kim likes to watch videos on YouTube, okay? And so we're going to introduce each other that way. Okay, I'm going to start the timer now. You have 1 minute to interview the first one, and I will let you know when you need to switch. Take some notes. Do a good job of interviewing your partner. Switch. I'll call time. After calling time twice, if I had people that were still chitty-chatty, I'd go stand near them, make them feel kind of creepy. I'm sure you will develop a method for getting students' attention, you know, When I say lion, you say king, or I mean, there's just so many of them. It doesn't matter what you're saying as long as it works. So, can I have a volunteer to introduce their partner? Yes, ma'am. Please tell us about Kim.
This is Kim Blevins. She loves gardening and Zumba. She was born in Chicago in 1960-something.
I hope you get out of 8th grade this year, Kim. We're going to work on that one.
She enjoys working in her flower garden. Her challenge is trying to relax. And her most memorable moment is when she had her daughter.
Aw, okay. Nice to meet you, Kim. Anybody else have a volunteer? Have a volunteer. Yes, thank you.
Okay, this is Shannon. She likes to take naps to relax. She was born in Birmingham in '97. Her favorite activities is exploring the internet, social media platforms. Her most challenging thing is college, which is true. I told her that's true. And she's not really sure of her most memorable moment yet.
It's still ahead of you.
Yes, that's what I was
Whoa,
thinking. It's
something
okay.
to look forward to. I had a volunteer over here. Yes, please.
This is Carl.
Hi, Carl.
He loves to run to relax. He was born in Chattanooga, Tennessee in 1967. His favorite activity is spending time with his daughters. His most difficult challenge is swallowing his pride. Ooh. And his most memorable moment is the birth of his first daughter.
Oh, all right. So it's so nice to meet all of you. Now, we're not going to go around and introduce everybody, or we'd still be here when it was time for lunch, and I always hate to be the one that keeps you from the trough. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, get out of the way. So we are doing this first day of school just to build culture. Now, even if you have had these students before, and they probably, have worked together, there's still tons of things they don't know about each other. We think we know each other, but at the end of the day, I always say you really don't know somebody until you share, toothpaste with them. But, we have a lot to do. And so we'll go through this. Now, I'm not as familiar with the Tennessee evaluation model as I am with the Colorado evaluation model, because I've used that up close and personal for the last 5 years. But on Colorado, there's a section on there that says that we're supposed to differentiate, use student interests in our teaching, get to know them that way. We can motivate. I see some things about motivation. And so if I were you, if I were actually teaching this lesson, I would take up the written part and keep it, maybe post it on the wall, have their picture up. There's just so many things you could do with that list of information, if not their picture, their name, something about them. And so that way when you get ready to design a lesson, or when you get ready to ask questions, you'll have a brief outline of what everybody in your class, some of the things that they like to do. Okay, that's an aside. Now, back into character. Guys, now that we know each other so well, I need someone to tell me what their favorite movie is. Anybody got a favorite movie? Yes, sir.
No Country for Old Men.
No Country for Old Men. My husband loves that. I suffered through it at the movies. Suffered. Speaking of movies, great. Who's been to the movies lately? Who's been, okay. I think I need another scribe to stand here and write for me. Anybody, any volunteers? Any volunteers? Try as much as possible to get your students up and doing. Don't always pick the same one. Can someone on the end? Thank you. Okay. Well, I get you. I never taught elementary, and because of that, I'm a horrible handwriter. But if you write fast enough, they don't know you can't spell. So, you've been to the movies recently, or you've sat on your couch and you've seen a movie recently. What were some of the things that bothered you, that interrupted your train of thought while you were sitting there watching No Country for Old Men, thinking, how in the heck are they going to kill another person? Okay, yes?
People talking too much during the movie.
People talking during the movie. Can I get a Hands up and amen for that one. Yeah, that's irritating. You're just so focused. Okay, what else bothers you? Yes.
Children.
Children. Okay. You realize that without them, we're out of a job. I mean, it ain't taking long. Yeah, you don't want to see them at the movies. Okay. Yes.
It was too long.
Movies that are too long? Okay. What else bothers you?
Too much movement.
Too much movement. Maybe people coming in late, and then in the middle they got to go to the bathroom. Yeah. Yes.
Too loud. The movie's too loud.
The movie's too loud.
People talking on their cell phone.
People using their cell phone in a movie. Yeah, the cell phone. Anything else that you can think of? You've been to a movie recently, or you were sitting on your couch? Anything? Yes.
It's cold.
It's cold. Room temperature. Okay. All right. You know, thank you very much. Let's think about our classroom as that movie theater. I mean, we are going to be with each other for, hour a day, every day, what will feel like the rest of your life, but it isn't. So, if people talking while you're trying to watch the movie or learn is bothersome in a movie, probably going to be bothersome in our classroom? Yeah, so can we agree that, we're going to be respectful of our talking here in the classroom? That when the movie is on, we're not going to overtalk? Or when Kim or Carl are talking, sharing their idea about something, that we're not going to overtalk them, that we're going to be respectful of that so they can learn? Thumbs up on that one? We good? Okay. And then, how many of you promise not to bring your baby brother to class? Great. So we'll have no children, no wailing babies in class. Too long. Well, let's think about that. I mean, our class is a set time, but maybe if I talk too long and don't give y'all a chance to do something, that would be kind of, or maybe one person drones on and on. Yeah, so we're going to try to be brief. Too much movement. How many of you ever have been in a movie and it's already started and here comes the person? Excuse me, excuse me, excuse me. I mean, that's irritating. So I'm thinking that we probably need to agree to come to class on time. What do you think about that one? Because that's irritating. Because if I'm up here teaching and I have to stop and you're trying to take notes, you think, darn, this is going to be on a test somewhere. So we probably need to say we're going to be here on time. And then the other thing, there's always one or two. They get that humongous drink, and they suck that sucker down, and the last 30 minutes, when things are just wrapping up, excuse me. So we're going to agree, we're going to go to the little boys and girls room before class so that we don't have to interrupt. Interruptions are aggravating. We're not going to be loud. We're going to do some group work here. It's going to be fun, but we're going to keep our noise level down so that everybody can hear, okay? And then, the cell phone. How many of you heard the cell phone go off this morning It's irritating. You're listening, you're paying attention, then all of a sudden. Now here's what I need for you to do for me. We're going to have a rule. You're going to keep your phone out of sight, out of mind. How many of you ever had an emergency before? Anybody ever had an emergency? Remember, you're 10. Maybe. So if you come up to me and you say, Dr. Lynn, my mom is in the hospital and my aunt is going to text me and tell me that she's okay, then I'll say, okay, well, you can leave that phone out there on silent. We'll get that text. But other than that, unless I say, hey, pull out that phone and use the calculator, we're going to keep that one out of sight and out of mind, okay? Because we're busy in here. We're going to be working, okay? We're going to be working. Because time flies faster when you do that. So I need you to put that away, okay? That's my expectation, okay? And we're going to stick to it. And then, too cold. I'm going to do my darndest to keep this room regulated, okay? Now, think about the class just decided on the majority of the procedures you're going to use. You didn't walk in the door. Anybody remember Harry Wong? He's still out there. Years ago, our whole district, I taught and principaled and superintendent in Cheatham County for 30 years. And years ago, our whole district were going to Harry Wong. And the best day of my life was when my principal handed me a piece of poster board. Principals didn't give you anything back in the day, okay? He gave me a piece of poster board and said, write the classroom rules on it and stick it up on the wall. And of course, not being elementary, my handwriting was pretty bad, but I was so excited I get to set my own classroom rules. Well, not so much. When students work with you to develop something, you can always say, hey, no, now remember what we agreed to. We agreed to do this. Now I'm thinking as far as being able to show those. Think of a bulletin board, a movie bulletin board, and those are little popcorn boxes. Think of ways that you can say, okay, this side of the room, whoever follows the rules the best, y'all are going to get popcorn. Don't do a movie, they're too long. Most of them can't get done in one period, and you've got work to do. So, a lot of ways just to get them involved. Doesn't have to be a movie theme, but that's kind of the way that it flowed for me when I was thinking out, how would I get student input into things and ways that they need to behave, okay? So the first day of school, I always had teachers. Oh, I got to get in there, we got to get in there, we got to teach. I'm here to tell you nothing's going to happen unless the rules are followed, okay? How many of you have ever worked hours and hours and hours on a lesson just to have it hijacked by an 8-year-old or a 14-year-old or a 16-year-old? Okay? So we didn't come to work to do this. We came to work to teach it, and our content, we have a passion about our content. And if we don't put these procedures in place right from the get-go, then that's not going to happen. So here's just some things to kind of keep in mind. I wasn't at the door greeting some of you. I was in a session down here and y'all beat me here. But normally, you need to be at that door greeting the people. And I already had my bell ringer at the beginning of, I already had it up and going. Was on the board, doesn't have to be anything fancy. And your bell ringer, how many of you, because things got out of hand, your bell ringer lasted the entire period? Okay. Yeah. We'll let you answer that yourself, okay? But bell ringers should be no more than 5 minutes, and it should be prior learning or reflection. Shouldn't be new learning because you're out in the hall getting class going, okay? The timer. I cannot stress this enough. It doesn't necessarily have to be one of the digital ones where rockets go off, although those are nice. But when you say 2 minutes, you need to adhere to 2 minutes, okay? Now you notice that when I said 2 minutes, I was walking around the room. When I do that, how many of you have a Fitbit? Okay. No reason you shouldn't get your 10,000 steps probably before lunch. But if I'm circling the room then I know that if they need extra time, or if they're just, because they'll always ask for extra time. Y'all need some extra time? Yeah, I do, yeah. Okay? Because, that's what they like to do. Students know the procedures for the beginning of class. So with me at the door, I'm setting the model, bell ringer's on the board, and it cannot be haphazard. That's the hardest thing. How many of you have gone to professional development at the beginning of your school year and they've rolled out this big initiative, and come October you don't remember what the acronym stood for? Okay? Because the continuity's not there. So you have got to make yourself do it. That's the hardest thing in the world, is making yourself stick with this. Reviews the procedures. I've had teachers say, well, they're in high school, they ought to know how to act. Well, maybe, but is it going to hurt to take 5 or 10 minutes to review it? So even after I've set the procedures, especially the first couple of weeks, I'm going to hit those procedures every day. Okay? Don't assume anything. You know what that means. So classroom desks are arranged according to the day's activity. I had a new teacher one time, and we were doing some professional development around project-based learning, and we talked about working in teams, and she got the idea that I like teamwork, which I do. So she rearranged her whole class every day into teams. And I would go in and I would go, but that's not a team activity. And I know in some ways we're limited by our room arrangement, such as this, but team, you're saying something. Oh, the desks are in teams today. I bet we're going to be working together. Or they're in rows today, so I guess we're going to do independent work today, solo work. If possible, set that room according to that. And then clear pathways are set for the trash can and the pencil sharpener. Whatever you do, don't put somebody really easily distracted next to those things. I mean, you can't always. But think about your room when you leave here today. What does my room look like? Can I get over here to the trash can without, Johnny bumping Joey and causing a little bit of a altercation? So just some things to think about in terms of that. Okay? Now, at the end, we're going to go over the classroom tips and struggles. Hopefully we will have hit most of those. I'm so excited that you have tips that work an equal number as things that don't. So that gives me hope. Okay, so moving right along. The next part of this session is supposed to be on working in teams. How many of you have project-based learning at your school? Okay? That's a big thing. They want students to be able to collaborate and work together. Most of the failures that I've seen in project-based learning, it's not the academic breakdown, okay? We know our stuff. It's getting the students used to working together in groups. How many of you have ever been put on a committee at your school? Okay, all right. I remember sitting through some pretty miserable committees with my principal folks and thinking, oh dear. So what are some of the things that a lot of times go wrong in projects? When you're working with a team, here, collaborate, yes.
One person does everything.
One person does it all. You are so right. And it's like, and that really makes people so unhappy, because it's about, if you notice how kids, and maybe us adults, We like fairness. And you put them in teams and they go, well, that's not fair. They're doing it all, okay? So what are some other things? One person does it all. What are some other problems that you've had when you've worked together with a team? Yes, sir?
Nobody gets along.
Nobody is what?
Nobody gets along.
Nobody gets along. Okay. What else?
Some kids that don't contribute at all.
Some kids that don't contribute. So, yes.
Some kids are absent.
Yes. I have had kids go, I'm not working with them because they're never here. Okay? I agree. So, before you begin a project, you need to have this discussion with your kids. Boys and girls, we're going to start a project. It's just a little mini project because next week we're going to do an amazing project that's going to last a full week, okay? But before we do that, I want us to have some practice working together. You are going to have so much fun. You're going to be totally amazed. But before we do that, so that we won't get frustrated by some of the things you talked about, we're going to make a teamwork contract. And so when I say that, I'm going to give everybody a blank one of these and we're going to design it together. One of the things that you mentioned, students absent, whatever comes out of your class discussion, that's what you're going to have the contract, okay? We're going to do this right now. We're going to use this contract. This isn't one time and, we're only going to use this once. We're going to use this for all of our projects. So right now we're setting the stage of how we're going to work together at the very beginning and how we're going to work with our projects. So by typing these in, the expectation, students, the expectation is I'm going to come to class, okay? Expectation. Every student's going to come to class every day, okay? Every student is going to contribute, okay? One person isn't going to do it all. We're all going to share in the project. One of the problems that, anybody have a talkie-talkie person on their faculty? They have an opinion and they're going to share it over and over and over again, okay? So we're going to make sure that nobody is going to hog the conversation. So you're going to make this rubric or contract, I think of it more of a contract than a rubric. We're going to make this contract at the very beginning, before the project kicks off, so that everybody understands the expectation. Will it cure all evils? No. But again, it's something that you can point back to, okay? And you're going to keep saying it and saying it. Now notice I put in a column for reflection. Boys and girls, we've been working on this project for a full 2 days. Pull out your teamwork contract. Write a reflection. How are you doing? How's your team doing, or you're doing, on each of the things that we agreed to? How are we doing on that one? It's always good to reflect back, okay? And then do some sharing out on that one, okay? So from the get-go, we're going to do the teamwork contract. Now, if you would, group yourself in a group of 4. If 4 isn't convenient for you, then, do 3, whatever's convenient. Now, if I were teaching this, I would designate the groups. Now, if it's at the beginning of the year, I may not know that Carl and Kim can't work together because they like each other, okay? And they're going to talk. So I may not know that. But that's the good thing about doing a pre-project, okay? This is a trial project because I'm going to be watching. I'm thinking, oh, when we get ready to do that big project next week, I'll know who not to put together, okay? So if you would, put yourself in teams of 4. And the reason I say 3, it's really better to have more than less because generally every project has 4 parts, 4 members that have very specific tasks, okay? Very specific task. So with your 4 people, if you will assign yourselves, okay, that's perfect. Assign yourself, everybody who needs the sheet, okay? Again, if I'm teaching this, we're going to either number off, I'm going to have them predetermined, some way of, do y'all need one too? Yeah. Okay, terrific. Some way of knowing. Y'all need one? You good? Okay.
But I was elementary for the vast majority of my career.
All right. If you'll make sure that you're 4 people, I say lion. King. Thank you. I say lion, you say king. Now, you've got 4. If you have more than 4 in your team, we're going to have 2 scribes. Please assign. Give everybody a slip. Give everybody a slip. Where are my leaders? Where are my leaders? Tell me what a leader does. I say lion. King. Tell me what a leader does.
Okay, your leader. A leader makes sure that everyone is doing what they're responsible for and keeps everyone on task and keeps the group going.
Keeps the group going. All right? Where's another leader? Where's another leader? Yes, ma'am. What does a leader do?
They make sure everyone's working together.
They make sure everybody's working together. One more. Where's a leader over here? What does a leader do?
Keeps everyone in line. No, I'm just kidding. It just makes sure everyone is following the rubric and all.
Okay. Making sure everybody's on task. Okay? Making sure everybody's working together. Now, you want to go over these roles. You want to spend some time with these roles because if I say, okay, you're going to be the leader and you're going to be the scribe and you're going to be the presenter and you're going to be the timekeeper. Now, the timekeeper may understand what they're supposed to do, maybe, but you've got to spend some time with them defining the roles. They just don't fall into place. We don't innately know how to collaborate with people, okay? And collaboration is so important. All right, where's my scribes? Where's my scribes? Tell me what a scribe does, right here.
Writes down all of the ideas and thoughts of everybody in the group.
Writes down all the ideas and thoughts of everybody, okay? Let me ask you something, class. If this scribe is writing down the thoughts and ideas of everybody, what does everybody have to do? Contribute, okay? Remember our rubric. We want everybody to contribute. Where's the scribe? Over here. Yes, what does a scribe do?
You're basically just keeping up with the main ideas of your conversation.
Keeping up with the main ideas and what else in the conversation? There's another part to that. What am I going to make sure I write down?
Every thoughts.
The decisions. Everybody's decisions, okay? The group decision, all right? Where is the timekeeper? Where's my timekeepers? Yes, ma'am. What does a timekeeper do?
Make sure nobody talks too much or too little.
Talks too much or too little. Okay, when we say talks too much, Lois comes to my mind. She was on my faculty. My goodness. And so, you know, you want to make sure that everybody has an equal opportunity to express some ideas, okay? Making sure everybody says something, contributes something. That way you don't have the, well, they didn't do anything, they just kind of sat there. That's the expectation. There'll be days you'll have to stop that project and go, let's review what we agreed that we would do. Keep coming back to it. Keep coming back to it. What about the presenter? What does the presenter do? Where's my presenter? Yes, sir. What does a presenter do?
The presenter in this aspect is like a choreographer. They ensure that all team members have an equitable part of the presentation to the rest of the class.
Right. How many of you've had the students, they've gotten up and they're going to do a presentation, one does all the talking and the rest of them hold the board? Okay? Because we want them all to participate, okay? They're not the ones that do it. Now, are these 4 jobs written in stone? Can you have other jobs for your team? Yeah, of course. But this is what worked for me, okay? That these are the 4 roles. Like to keep the teams kind of small. We've all been on committees that are just too big. And so I think 4 is kind of manageable. All right, that's great. So now we understand the roles. Now before we start working on our project, let's talk about the project schedule. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and tell you what our project is. You are not going to believe this. A friend of mine has been absolutely crazy about crayons all her life. Absolutely has been crazy about them, okay? And she got a job at Crayola. How many of you ever heard of Crayola? As a side note, the little marks that you see on these are not from where I've been biting on the crayons. When they put their wrapper on those, by golly, they mean them to stay. So I need each of you groups to make sure you've got a crayon. Because let me tell you this cool thing that my friend, her first assignment she's gonna do is she gets to pick out the name of their new crayon color. Is that not exciting? I mean, how many people are going to be able to say, yes, that Ragin' Red, that was my idea. Isn't that pretty cool? And so I said to her, because she was really struggling with it, I said to her, girl, my class can help pick that out. Okay? I might even, when I was introducing this, I might even say, let me read you this email I got from her. Or if I'm really tech, I might actually have a little video of her and go, hey, thanks for your help. Now, does it have to be a crayon? No. Again, think mini project. You could do those. Or, where are my ELA teachers? Okay. What about, my friend just wrote a book. They love her book at Barnes & Noble, wherever, whatever company you can think of. They absolutely, come back, love her book. What they don't love about her book, they don't like the title. So I said to her, you send us a synopsis of that book, and by golly, we're going to write you the best title there ever was. And so I can tie it to ELA. What about in science class? You will not believe it. They have found a new dinosaur. My friend is a paleontologist. You're going to have more friends by the time that school year ends. My friend is a paleontologist. He studies dinosaurs. He's trying to think of a new name for his dinosaur. Give them all a dinosaur. Give them flowers. Give them something to make them understand I'm helping somebody, okay? After about the 10th time, they might catch on, but beginning of the year, it's all good, all right? So again, the whole idea of this is not an academic unit, okay? If they learn some things, great. This is how we're going to do teamwork activity, okay? Critical to what you're doing. So, guys, working in your team, this is our project schedule. You're going to have 10 to 15 minutes to discuss amongst yourself an idea about the name of the new crayon color, okay? Now, what I'm going to do, class, is that in about 8 minutes, I'm going to start walking around, and if I'm thinking, I think they might need a minute or two, we might go all the way to 15. I'm not going to be set to that. Notice where it says completed. When you tell me when your team has decided this is Kardashian blush pink, okay? When you've given it a new name, you're going to raise your hand. I'm going to come over to the team with my handy pencil. You're going to show me the notes of how you came to the decision, and I'm going to sign off on those. I'm not going to come over there and you go race car red, and I'm going to sign off it. I'm going to look at your notes, okay? We've got to have some proof here. Proof. So I'm going to sign off on those. That's going to accomplish a couple of things. First of all, they know you mean business about the scribe taking the notes. And the other thing is, that's going to keep you moving up and about. And if you are moving up and about, I promise you the behavior is going to be better, because they're not as prone to act up when you're standing right there if you set that expectation early on. And so, after each one, I'm going to come by. I want you to think of a marketing theme to introduce the new color. How are we going to put this out on social media? What's going to be the project for that? What are we going to call that? What's the plan for that? And then tomorrow, we're each going to do a presentation on it, lasting no more than 5 minutes. Obviously, we're not going to be able to go through that here, but I want to make sure that everybody understands the project schedule exactly, okay? And that you're signing off. Now, if at the end of the first day, which they should be able to get those done, if people aren't done, when you turn in your paper, and if you're not finished, please see me afterwards. We're going to talk about doing a makeup time for you, okay? Because we can't keep this continuing, all right? We're going to see what we can do about making that up. So that's one step. And then I'm also going to go over with the class. This is my own rubric. I'm going to decide that. So you're thinking, gosh, this is a lot of work. Yes, it is. But you're going to continue to use that one. There's so many of them, you're going to only design once and then come back to it. So, how many of you, boys and girls, how many of you want to make an A on your project? Woohoo, yeah, me too. I want you to, because it'll make my life easier. So, I'm not going to go over anything except the exemplary, okay? Now, everybody's going to get one of these, but I'm only going to take a few minutes and go over the exemplary. Collaboration. As evidenced by notes, all members of the team collaborate on the project and work toward the agreed upon solution, okay? We're going to spend some time. We're going to emphasize the important part, all. Now, next week, when you do that big project, are you going to need to review those? You darn tootin' you are. But not as much as in detail. They've already done it once. And it would be great to say, you know what, boys and girls, when we worked on our little mini project, I don't think I got everybody all, okay? So we're going to work more on all. So you're going to go over that list. Then for the presentation, We need to teach our students to be active listeners. And to do that, we need their help in grading, okay? You're going to help me grade everybody's, because really the point of them listening to other people's presentation is to do what? Learn. Yeah, they're not doing it. And I already know about the causes of the Civil War, okay? It's for them to learn. Now, so when I get ready to do presentations, I'm going to pass the presentation feedback sheet out. I'm going to show an example. You're going to help me grade every presentation, okay? So when Juan and Sally and Pete and Dorothea get up, you're going to give them a score. Look, we gave them a score of 3. But not just that, you're going to tell me why. Not all members had an active role in the presentation. You're going to model for them what feedback looks like. Giving feedback to people is not an innate skill, okay? We didn't crawl out of the crib when we were 3 or 4 and come to kindergarten knowing how to do this, okay? And really, even as big people, we don't always give effective feedback. I mean, we've been hearing that. Principal's been beat up for years. You're not giving effective feedback to your teachers. Well, again, that's something that is not innate to everybody because we don't want to hurt people's feelings. I get it. What's the purpose of feedback? What's the purpose? To improve, okay? Class. We know each other real well. I know that Carl's favorite movie is No Country for Old Men, okay? I know that Donna was born in Area 51, Area 51, okay? I was close. I was only off by 3, okay? So we know each other, and because we know each other, we care. We want each other to improve. The only way we're going to improve is for feedback. So you have to be honest and helpful. Not just put on there, well, they suck. I mean, what do they, okay, I get it. What do they suck at? Too many mms and uhs and okay? So we need to be specific. But the only way they can be specific is if we model what we want that feedback to look like. What does that look like? Okay? All right? And what you may do is let a team present, and then when that team has presented, okay, I want everybody to fill out their presentation rubric and write down what they gave that team, okay? And then after a minute or 2, because it shouldn't take very much time, I'm going to stand up here as the teacher and I'm going to model. You know, I gave that team a 4 because everybody had a pretty equal part. Everybody stood up, spoke confidently, whatever's on my rubric, and that's the reason I gave them a 4. Or I'm going to stand up and, you know, I hate it, but I just felt like it was kind of average. I looked around the room and a lot of you were going, oh, you know, and not really listening. And I feel like if they were a little more engaging, you know, you would have listened. But I'm going to model what that looks like, okay? So these things that you're going to do with this mini project, you're going to use them again. Don't feel like, okay, well, I've got to do this every time. Don't do that to yourself. Now, at the end of the first little mini project, I may go back and I look at that presentation feedback rubric, or I may go back and I look, and I may want to make some changes, but you're not going to reinvent the wheel. You don't have time. But if you will take some time teaching students how to interact with each other, how to truly collaborate. Anybody ever heard of the Buck Institute? The Buck Institute, if you look it up, it's BIE dot, say EDU, but it may be right. It's the Buck Institute for Education. They are the premier project-based learning people. If you need a project to use in your classroom, tons of great examples there. They are not cheap. I ran into them. We had them at my high school when I was a principal in Idaho. My husband says I can't keep a job. And then when I was a principal in Colorado, we brought them in because, I mean, they are the gold standard in project-based learning. And we paid $15,000 for one of their trainers to come 3 times a year. Now, I will say to you, we got a $10.2 million STEM grant, okay? It helps if you are a low-income inner-city school. They'll give you money. The feds will. And so we had that money to spend. And Christy was our trainer. She was an awesome trainer. But she never once told us how to make sure our students collaborated. It's that setup portion. Your failures, the failures that happen with projects, are not on the academic side, okay? You know your content, you know how to do that. Most of the failures that occur are on this side because we want to hop right into it. We want to get right into it. And you can't get right into it until the children have practiced how to do project, okay? And so there's a lot of setup at the get-go. But the more you do that, the easier your projects are going to be. Okay, so the next part that we were supposed to go over are workstations, centers. How many people use workstations and centers, okay? For some reason, we think of those only as in elementary. Doesn't have to be that way, okay? They're great ways to utilize in any class. So, sound familiar? Miss Bailey was interrupted 12 times during small group. Miss Soper, she sees lots of benefits, but there's just too much distraction. No one had started a center during the first reading group. I pulled this off of a dissertation. I'll show you the website for that, where they were looking at ways to make work studies or centers better. This one really blew me away. Mrs. Juergens was interrupted 28 times, 28, during a 60-minute block. 28! How many of you have been interrupted to the point on centers that you're thinking, yes, okay. And I've seen it. You know, when I go in and observe and give feedback, I'll not use the evaluation, give feedback to pre-service teachers. It's difficult sometimes because of the interruptions. So, if I were doing a survey in class, and I've got the room, I really think that it's always good to have kids get up and move as much as possible. Now you notice when you came in and I had the chart paper up, I spread it out as much as possible. Now I've been in rooms that seriously look like they were closets, and you may not be able to use that as much. You could utilize the hallway, but having kids get up and visualize using chart paper or these great, I mean, look at all this whiteboard. That made me so envious. If I had known this, I wouldn't have bought the chart paper. So let's think about centers for just a minute, or workstations. How long do your centers typically last? Who does 5 to 10 minutes? Raise your hands. I mean, did anybody count for me? Can I have a counter? Do I have a volunteer counter? Yes, sir, count for me. 5 to 10 minute centers. Who we got? 4, okay. Ooh, I had to pick the one that didn't work good. Who does a 15 to 20 minute center? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12? We'll do 12. All right, 25 to 35 minutes. Anybody do a center that's long? You're working with a small group, probably a reading group, individually, and they're all doing their workstations. So most of it is around 20 minutes. Okay, 20 minutes. Your goal, and here, if you get a chance, read this. If you Google that, it's a great read. Okay, great ideas on implementation of literacy workstation, really any kind, and it's just sitting out there. Okay? So, 20 minutes, that is your goal. Do not begin a center until your students can work independently for 20 minutes. Workstations and centers are not beginning of the year, first week out of the gate activities. When your students, when you can sit at your desk and grade papers or file your fingernails or whatever you want to do, drink your coffee, when they can work for 20 minutes on a specific task and not stick their hand in your face or come traipsing up to your desk, then you're ready to do a 20-minute center, okay? Don't do it until they can do it. They're not ready, okay? When they can work independently for 20 minutes, now that may be week 2, that may be week 6. It doesn't really matter. You're still going to be teaching. It's not like you're sitting there, well, I guess we won't be doing this. You're still teaching. You're just not ready to let that go. So whatever you do, wait. Make sure I'm hitting my points. Wait until they can work independently. Now, what are they going to be working on? Well, they're going to be working in centers. The idea with centers is it's an extension of the learning. It's not busy work. I've heard people call it that. Well, you know, I want something to keep the students busy while I'm doing this small group reading activity. And small group reading activity, that's important. Great way to find out up close and personal where every student, you know, is in your classroom. It makes them feel special. Yeah, I got to sit, just, you know, me and the teacher and a few more students, and it's just a great activity. I've seen some great science activities around that. So it doesn't necessarily have to be reading, could be math. It helps you pinpoint, you know, some deficiencies where you're, you know, oh, Johnny's really good at this, but not so much at that. But to do that, you've got to have quiet time. It can't be interrupted 28 times. I would lose my mind. I would lose my train of thought. It would never come back. So, whatever activities that the students are going to be using in the workstation and centers, when they go traipsing over to that workstation or center, it is not going to be the first time they have seen a similar activity. Don't do that. How many of you have written out instructions? Please don't let me think I'm the only one. You've written out these instructions and you think, by golly, anybody could figure that out and follow those instructions. And you realize, crap, I forgot to do blah, or I left out that word. Every activity that your students are going to do in centers, they should have already seen. Again, during the time that you're getting them ready for 20 minutes of independent, you're going to be giving them activities similar to what they're going to see in the station. Doesn't have to be the same thing, but let's face it, they won't remember it. And so it's not going to hurt that they do similar activities or even the same activities the first round through, okay? So practice, take that time. Boys and girls, in a few weeks, we're going to divide up into centers, and here's an activity. Let's work through the kinks now, okay? Because no matter how thorough we think we are, well, maybe you are, maybe it's just me, but there's always something, okay? There's always something. if I tell you that story, we'll get off topic. Okay. Another major fail in centers is the rotation. How many have ever had problems figuring out the rotation? Kids don't know where they're supposed to go. It's also, if it's literacy, sometimes kids are pulled out and they come traipsing back in and they're not sure where they're supposed to go. Okay, you need to decide that in your head early on before class starts of how the rotation is going to work, and then you're going to practice it. Not during the day you're implementing the centers, okay? Hey, we're going to do this activity, we're going to use this in centers, and now we're going to pretend. And you're going to, the kids that are going to be pulled out, you're going to let them come back in. Well, where are y'all supposed to go? That was part of those 28 interruptions. Kids didn't know what they were going to go, where they were supposed to go. So, don't assume, well, they'll figure that out. Yeah, they will. Teacher, 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 teacher. And that throws your whole movement off. So think in terms of if you were writing a lesson plan for a teacher that was coming in next week, you're going to take a week off. By golly, I'm going to take a week off. I'm going to take a cruise. But I want to make sure everything keeps going. And so I'm going to be as detailed as possible. Don't y'all hate taking time off? When I took time off, I spent more time writing lesson plans and trying to hit every possibility. Then I thought, well, I might as well come on in. I'll do that cruise some other time. But be very specific. Run through it, okay? Practice that procedure, and then it'll be apparent, okay? It'll be apparent where the holes are in the activity. I just finished some work, I'll share this little story with you, for ESPN and Major League Baseball. Well, they wanted some curriculum written around bullying. If you go to shredhate.org, there's some free lessons there on bullying. And so I wrote them for them. But before I wrote them, or well, after I wrote them, I took them into a classroom and had them vetted. I sat through somebody teaching a lesson that I had written. And I was sitting there going, oh dear God. Because I think I'm being very specific. I think that, they'll be able to figure that out. No, not so much. So think about if you are outside that room, how can I get them to go around and do the rotations? Because the major fails in centers, not academics, y'all are good at that. The rotation and what am I going to do? What are the kids going to do when they go over to the center and it's supposed to be, I'm going to listen to a book being read, and they press the button and it doesn't work, Do you have a backup? A when all else fails center. What are they going to do then? So think about what could possibly go wrong, and it's everything, okay? So we just need to be very specific at that. Centers are wonderful, and again, it gives you time to work in small groups with kids. Be careful about the number of students you have in the centers, because, where two or more are gathered, things can get a little loud. Okay, to wrap up, one classroom management tip. Did everybody get a chance to read over these? Everybody get a chance? Okay. Knowing my students and their families. Excellent. And again, that goes back to teaching the procedure. We're interviewing the people. Flexible seating. I'm going to let you, I see flexible seating twice. The people that wrote flexible seating, how did that help you? One classroom management tip that really helped me, or I'm really good at, is flexible seating. What does that look like? What does that mean? Who wrote that? Yes, ma'am.
They're just more comfortable and they like it because it's different from their classroom. So I'm a school counselor.
Okay.
So I have 500 that come to me, and so
Only 500?
only 500. Yeah, and so that it's just so different from their classroom, and I give them the control to sit where they want, and they seem to just enjoy that.
A little break from the academics.
They listen a little better to me.
Yeah. Anybody that was, yes?
I teach kindergarten and it's the same thing. It's like they have a place for all their supplies and they know where to go get it, and they have that control over where they sit and where they work, and they're more apt to finish their work, and it's something that I don't have to really worry about. I just know they're working.
Yeah, and as long as they're doing their work, but again, have to have the procedures in place for that, and obviously you do. Give choices when possible. Yeah, that's always a good. They want to be able to choose. Okay, you know, on the crayon project, you know, they're not really it's the choice, but they do have a choice in what they're going to name their crayon color. Routines, absolutely, absolutely. Somebody over on the side that has the classroom management I've struggled with. Read me some of those.
Squeezing all required criteria in a 30-minute lesson per the team rubric.
All right. Read that aloud again, because I saw that one.
Squeezing all required criteria in a 30-minute lesson per the team rubric.
Okay, to get that finished, procedures have to be in place because you're going to be moving quickly. The other thing is, what's critical? What's critical to the lesson? What do they have to absolutely know to be able to learn tomorrow? So maybe you'll need to just narrow that down, okay? I mean, you know, maybe we don't need to know that Robert E. Lee had a white beard. I don't know. I mean, just try to narrow it down as much as possible. And timer. I cannot stress timer enough. Let's do two more. I've heard the pitter-patter of little feet, and you don't want to be the last one in line. Voice and volume control. Again, the procedure about Lion King, something, you know, change it up. And I see those used so many times in elementary and middle. Why won't the high school people do it? I'm here to tell you, we grow older, we do not grow up, okay? And so it doesn't really matter. We're my high school people. Don't they still love stickers? Oh, mine did, and you know, I was in the murder capital of the world, of Colorado, so they do. They do. It's just they don't want to admit it. I mean, again, bring those procedures into that. And then one more.
Not seeing groups of students again for 6 school days.
Yes. And I would point to that because, you know, you got your fall. Anybody want to give up their fall breaks and see them every day? Again, I would do the bell ringers for that to bring them back around. That first day back, it may be better just to review some of the things. Our kids, the day before break, they wouldn't show up, and the day after break, they wouldn't show up, okay? And it was okay. We just kind of learned to deal with it. And so review, review, review. Don't just say, well, they're not here, I'm not going to do anything. Okay, our time is up. Thank you so much. Please, you're very welcome. I appreciate your attention. I appreciate you playing along. And if you'll either hand me your pen or leave it on the desk, and if I can ever be of any help, just let me know. Thank you so much.